You guys may not know it, but this is a personal triumph for me. This is the first time that our guests can actually see me. I know that sounds strange, but I've been doing it on my own. I only have one camera, but now I got two.
Yeah.
So they should be able to see me, and now you guys can see me. But anyways, this is another episode of the Invent Global Podcast. This is episode 24. I'm once again Nick Durazio, hosting with my co-host Eric and Dell, and we have a special guest, the one and only Sajam. Hello, Sajam. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How about you guys? You guys chilling, hanging in there? I see quarantine hair is peak in this podcast.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's getting real bad.
We're all getting there.
Yeah. My girlfriend is like trying to come at me with scissors at this point. Like, let me just fucking do it. I'm like, you don't trust yourself. I don't trust you to do it.
You know what? It's funny that you say that because I actually got my hair cut today. It was my wife did the same thing. I got out of the shower and my hair was just so in my face. She's like, we need to do something about this. And literally it looked like a small dog died in my bedroom because it was just absolutely insane. And
well, that's another thing. Like, where's all this hair going to go into? Like,
I mean, it's all in a trash bag. It looks like I just murdered a lot of puppies, little furry, fuzzy puppies. But yeah, man, so I haven't got my hair cut in months, and here we all are now on a podcast going to talk about video games and esports. First of all, it has been a slow news week, so I just want to these are my favorite types of episodes when I'm sitting here looking at these show notes that Eric made, and boy, when we're talking about Tetris trivia, boy, Eric, this was a slow one. Anyways, Sajam, you are a fighting game commentary guru, I'd say. You've been doing this for some time now, and fighting games is your specialty. Can you kind of give a quick rundown to our listeners who may not be familiar with the work? Like, who are you? How'd you get started in all this esports business?
So I commentate tons of different fighting games all over the place, and I got started like many years ago. I think like most people, just going to events, like being interested, being a player, and then it kind of transitioned into like, hey, we need someone to sort of talk about the match that's happening, and then you do it kind of, casually as a commentator, and then it turns into something more and more and more until eventually one day you're like, wait, this is my job? When did this happen? Sort of abruptly. So it is something that just kind of naturally became my job because I was doing it all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And I've done it for years now. And in the last year, especially in this year, I've been streaming a lot. So I've mostly been doing a ton of streaming. Normally, I travel 30 to 40 weekends a year doing events. But this year, I'm traveling like 0 weekends a year. So I've just been chilling at home, streaming, playing games, relaxing.
So I'm actually, because I thought that I traveled a lot for work, but I didn't realize that, the commentator, that is the maximum esports travel load, probably even more so than players, because like you said, you would do all sorts of fighting games. Like obviously you miss it, but are there any upsides? Like, do you still get to commentate for online stuff? How is that adjustment for you?
Yeah, so I've been doing some online tournaments, and there's still online tournaments that can happen, but like the thing for me is I just mostly been focusing on my own stuff. When I'm not commentating events, I'm usually at home, like doing analysis for tournaments that happened, or doing like recaps of news, or like I basically start the stream and every day it's like an hour of fighting game news and nonsense and articles and topics and stuff like that. And then afterwards it's either games or analysis or whatever else. So, it's like this week, it's been a slow year for fighting games in the sense that because everything's been offline or online instead of offline, we've had less to talk about, but there's still been things happening, new characters, new games, new DLC, all like stuff like that, and things in the community. But there are nice things about being home more. Definitely streaming a lot and just focusing on that has been really nice. And I think it's really easy to burn out with a travel schedule like that.
Oh yeah.
So being home
So
now
true.
makes me want to travel.
Yeah, I was looking at some old photos, and there was that thing going on online. It was like, what was your last normal photo? And my last normal photo was me and some friends in like an arcade/bar thing playing Street Fighter 2. And like I didn't realize how special of a moment that would have been, us just playing Street Fighter 2. Like I so miss that. I so miss in-person fighting games more than ever. But anyway, speaking of games we've been playing, Eric, what games have you been playing during this quarantine? Another week of quarantine. I don't even. What is it, like week 67 or something? It's crazy.
Like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm still just kind of burning through all the games that I picked up during the Steam sale. I got back into Griftlands, which is kind of like this this card game. Sajam, you just finished up Mark and the Ninja remaster. It's by the same developers that put that together. So it's kind of got like this Slay the Spire kind of feel to it. And so it's just like this single player card game. And it's super good, super cool. It's still in early access. They're going to have like 3 playable characters. They've got like 2 out now. Yeah, it's just like a really good time. My only criticism is
really
like,
cool.
It's super cool. Yeah.
I've seen a ton of people playing it because I love card games in general. And I've seen a lot of people just trying it and telling me that like, oh yeah, it reminds them of Slay the Spire, or reminds them of like Monster Train, which is also another recent game people have been playing.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about Monster Train, actually, because I've been hearing nothing but good things about that game, and I saw that you had it listed on your stream. Have you been playing that at all?
Yeah, so I tried Monster Train because I have like I don't even know how many hours.
Wait, what is Monster Train? For the uninitiated, is this a train that is a monster, or is it like, or is it like Monster Rancher? Do you train monsters? Because that would pique my interest.
It's like a card game where you're building a deck, right? Every time you win a fight, you get new cards, and the cards can be units or powers or spells or whatever. And the train is a multi-layer map. So like you have different levels on the train, like 1 through 4 or whatever. At the top is like your health. It's your pyre that you have to carry. And you literally are monsters who are on a train, and the angels from heaven are trying to come to the train and kill you. So it plays like a card game, but thematically you are a group of monsters.
So this is like Snowpiercer, almost, right? It has like Snowpiercer vibes.
Yeah, it's on a train.
That's the connection. But it's a really cool game. Like I think if you like card games, you'll like it. But a lot of people told me that they were like, this game does everything that Slay the Spire does wrong right, and it's like super good. And I played it, and everybody who's told me that I've realized does not like card games, because I think Slay the Spire is a much better card game, and I think Monster Train is like an engine builder. You know what I mean? Like it's more of like an engine builder, or like it's not really like a card game to me in my head, right? So like I've seen there's like I saw like at least 5 or 6 game developers who like work on not card games say, oh, Monster Train is like better in every way. So when I tried it, I was like, you guys like a different thing than card games. Like it's like a very weird game.
Yeah.
I haven't played it, but what I'm describing sounds like those there were those in-person card games. Have you seen them where it's like Marvel superhero based or superhero based, but they're like you have to try to build the most powerful superhero, but they're all just deck building games, right? And I think deck building games, there's a certain subgenre like within them where it's all about trying to like assemble this massive like combo, or this kind of this like massive thing. And then there's some card game deck building games that is, in my opinion, much more like reactive. Like you're trying to sit there and really, maybe it's like every deck is different each time because you're really trying to build based on what you're faced against. Honestly, I feel like we're in this resurgence of people like embracing the RNG of card games rather than hating on it, right? Because like there was this while, and I remember when Hearthstone was just coming out, people were like so torn. They were like, no, all of this RNG is bad for the game. Meanwhile, it was getting more popular and more popular, and I think it's because of the RNG. And I think these games, there's a trend going, right? Like there's more of these games, I think, in the populace now.
I'll say personally, I've never had like an allegiance towards like collectible card games. Like I tried to get into Hearthstone. Like I really, really tried to get into Hearthstone because I had a ton of friends that were super into it. It just never really clicked. But I was always playing like roguelike games. I must have like 500 hours in like Enter the Gungeon is like my favorite one of those.
Dude, Rogue Legacy. Have you played that one?
Yeah. Rogue Legacy 2 is actually coming into early access next month. It just got delayed, but early access. It looks super good.
Yeah.
But yeah, the kind of bridge between me was like roguelike and card game mechanics. So like I started off with Slay the Spire, moved over to Dicey Dungeons, which I put like a ton of time into too. I don't know.
I love that game.
You played it?
It's so goddamn cute. Yes, it's so. I just love all of the
Super good.
music. I love the sound. That's one of those games where it's like you don't like you think you love the game for the gameplay, and that's true. But if the art design wasn't so charming, you would totally forget like about that game completely. You know,
Yeah.
those I love games like that.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for that game to come to mobile. Apparently, it's coming out sometime this year. But yeah, and then I just moved over to Griftlands like recently, and yeah, I love it.
Okay.
I just beat the second campaign yesterday.
So speaking of card games, Sajam, I'm curious. Have you ever fallen into the auto chess like trap? Have you ever gotten addicted to one of those games?
Yeah, I played a ton of TFT. For a while
TFT,
there,
yeah.
I was big into TFT, and I think the genre is really fun.
Yeah.
But I just haven't gotten back into it since, like, Riot made TFT, and then I was like interested in it, and then they made Runeterra, right? So
Yep.
Runeterra came out, and I like card games generally more than, well, auto battlers, right? Because they're kind of
Yeah.
a new genre by comparison. So I got into Runeterra pretty heavily. I think whenever the next set of TFT comes out, I will probably play it again. I'll
Yeah.
probably give it another go. But I think the genre is really fun. Yeah, it's right up my alley.
Yeah, it's really novel, and it's like it's a hole that you fall like deep into, especially
See-
when like it was blown up in the beginning like that. I was more into the like OG auto chess.
Yeah,
That was-
for Dota 2.
That
But
was more
then,
my speed.
see,
Overlord.
if you go way,
Yeah.
way back, in terms of OG-ness, I feel as if there's so many similarities between those tower defense mods in StarCraft and Warcraft. I think that, like, at its core, there's this concept of, like, you're up against 8 players, and you each have to try to choose a path, and you're each trying to have a build, and you're each trying to, like, have this resource management. It's very similar. And I feel as if, like, I bet the people who made auto chess, I bet that they absolutely made mods for tower defense games, and it's all
Yeah.
the same kind of
Yeah,
culture,
it's all
I think,
there.
of game devs. Yeah, these modders that take this, it's like a gameplay at its purest form. And you know what? Actually, Eric, you were talking about trying to love Hearthstone, right? I played
Yeah.
Hearthstone I was a Hearthstone fan. I watched Hearthstone esports. I was that guy. I absolutely loved it. I would travel all over the world to like report on Hearthstone stuff. And then I don't know, something it got really boring all of a sudden. Like Hearthstone it's gone. But Battlegrounds has completely invigorated my love for Hearthstone, and it's kind of their version of a auto chess, even though it's much simpler.
Yeah.
I just think that there's this like trend going on about like games being played for you. Like it's so chill to just sit back and play one of these auto chess games because you're just like it's so less stressful. And like maybe it's because gamers are getting old, right? Like, we actually had that news that just came out that said like I think it's like the majority of gamers are age 30 to 46, right? That's like a new thing. That's like a new reality because all these gamers are growing up. I think we're seeing more of these games that kind of play themselves. Because, like after work, I'm way too stressed sometimes to play the games I love. Like, it's too intense.
Yeah, no, I mean it's cool to see just people come out and create like a completely new genre of video game,
Yeah.
using like all these assets and stuff. And it just goes to show like you don't need to be this AAA developer to do it. You just need a concept and like, it has to work good enough to be like operable, and yeah, people just love it. I mean, we're seeing all this stuff with like Blizzard just kind of covering their ass in that regard with like all these like terms and conditions that like Overwatch has with
nightmare.
its like
Dude,
like
don't even
creative
get
modes.
started on Reforged.
Yeah, Warcraft 3 with all that shit. Yeah, so it's a shame that like especially these big companies are just like yeah, I mean you can put all this time and effort into like making your own thing, but at the end of the day we're going to be in charge of the direction that it goes from here on out.
Well, no one wants to let Dota slip through their fingers again.
Exactly.
Sajam, I'm curious because maybe you share this same thing with me. I love fighting games more than anything, but sometimes I find myself playing them less and less and watching them more and more. So
Yeah, I was gonna say on
Yeah.
your point earlier about like the stress of
Yeah.
different genres. Like I think like coming home and trying to play a MOBA that you're committed for 40 minutes or like Valorant or like, some kind of high stress game that takes a lot of investment into is a tougher ask, especially because if you just want to like get in bed and like get on your phone or your Switch or like just cool down, like there's so many other games you can play that are not as high intensity, high stress, right? Like it just makes sense. Fighting games can be like that. The benefit they have is that they're short.
Yeah.
Right? Like a fighting game match does not take 40 minutes. You have like 2-minute matches and you're just boom, boom, boom on to the next one. So that is very nice, but you definitely have to commit. If you're going to play a fighting game and you're going to play other people, like you need to sit there and really just like dig in and be ready for something that's going to be high stress and high tension.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it is a bit of a commitment in that regard for sure.
I've actually been experiencing that with a Slippy, that Melee rollback netcode. Oh my god, dude! I didn't realize how addicted to Melee I was until it was at the push of a button. I can play high level Melee at any time. Like I've never been able to experience that in my life. Like like Melee has always required setup, and I gotta get a GameCube, and I gotta find someone, and then that's the hardest thing, just finding someone who will sit down and grind for as long as I want to play. But now that I realize I play like Melee just in between everything. Like if I have to wait 10 minutes or something, all right, I'll just like play some Melee. That is one thing that I love about fighting games. It is.
So you've actually been doing like matchmaking?
Well, so right now it's just unranked. Right now it's just this, which is, by the way, I think last podcast I like made this point. I'm all for more unranked modes, and I only say that because I think there is a magic when you don't know the skill level of the person you're going to queue into. I think that there was this like movement to try to have like 50% win ratios and try to have this big ladder thing, and like sure, I guess that is very competitive, but does it actually make it more fun? Is it actually more fun experiences when every match you play is this equally skilled diehard thing? I think there's some fun in just being able to completely just wail on someone and then in turn being wailed upon. I love it when I face someone who's so clearly so much better than me. That just really doesn't happen when there's like ranked mode. So I love it.
I brought this up last week, but like obviously unranked mode, it's like exactly what you said. You get it's like a mixed bag. You don't know who you're going to get matched up against.
Yeah, just throw them in.
But for this like Slippy thing, obviously it takes a lot of work and like effort to set up. You have to download all these things. You have to have the know-how to like do that. So I can't really see all these like casual players like going through the trouble of doing that.
If you would think.
You'd be surprised how many because like first of all, thank you Smash Ultimate, right? The huge popularity of Smash Ultimate is always doing wonders for Melee because people tune in to watch a huge Smash Ultimate tournament and then they watch Melee and they like if you play a Smash Brothers game and you watch high level Melee, it's just like amazing. Oh my god, so cool. People want to try that. But think about it. If you're like the casual, all of those obstacles that like we were talking about earlier, finding a scene, getting a GameCube, that's actually the high barrier. You don't know anyone. You're never going to play Melee. You're just going to play Ultimate because it's so much easier. So I actually think Melee has made it far easier. There are far more casuals playing Melee than ever before.
Okay. I just assumed you were getting smacked online because you during our team call today you asked me to play. And
bro, okay.
That suck.
Bro, do you think I'm bad at Melee?
No. I'm just. I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
I figured you were getting like matched up against these like god tier guys, and you're like, oh, maybe I should just get Eric in here.
No.
I think the issue largely with Slippy is it's like it's fan made, right? So it's like they had to put so much time and effort into it. So like setting up a ranked mode and like making actual matchmaking, it takes like a lot of work. So when that happens, I think there's room for both modes, obviously, right?
Yeah,
like you want a ranked mode because otherwise the path of improvement is so unclear. And like if you watch the best Melee players play the mod, they queue up and like play random characters and never lose. Like unless they specifically go and find someone who is in the top 100, top 20, whatever, like they don't find competition. So it depends on, I think, your interest level in the game and your level of play, how much you really care about who you're playing against and how good or bad they are. You know what I mean? Because like Yeah, in those cases, they are all like, we need a ranked mode so bad. Like all of them are like, please give ranked mode. Like we need ranked mode because, they're playing against people who have like never played Melee in their lives, and
Yeah.
like they've been playing for 15 years, and they're like, oh.
So they're
You know what I
currently
mean?
actually speed running it.
Yeah.
They're making up ways to talk. I actually wrote this week about how Plup was not only playing with one hand and beating people, he then proceeded to blindfold himself, and he still beat people. So
Yeah.
Say Jim's completely right. The level of skill of the toppest tier, yeah,
Right.
they're on a whole another level. I think right now, Leffen on his stream was doing Iron Man attempts, and an Iron Man attempt is when you try to beat one match with every single character as fast as possible, because they're just trying to find ways to, I'm challenging
Keep themselves entertained.
yeah, they're beyond good. So, anyways, that's me. I've been playing Melee. I love it. I've also been playing Street Fighter Third Strike, but I've been doing that on Fightcade. And Fightcade, you get some killers. Dude, I'm talking people who they will beat you in the first round so bad, then they'll just immediately disconnect because it's like, you're not on my level, man. I'm like, okay, sure, I get it. I get that.
Just wasting their time.
Yeah, man, because like they're out there, but sometimes shout outs to Akuma Pikachu. Me and him have the biggest rivalry I see. There's just this one dude. He's so good, and here's something that I love. This is something that I always do when I'm playing against someone in a fighting game, and it's clearly that I'm better than them. Like, I'm not saying that I'm super good, but I've just been playing for so long, I have some fundamentals, right? When it's so clear I'm better than them, I will never quit if they don't quit. Like, if they want to keep running it back, I just feel like it's my duty to keep running it back with them, because I'm not like pro. Like, you can waste my time, but I can try to teach you, and I love it that's what this guy does. He is so good. Dude, Akuma Pikachu he bodies me so bad, but he never quits. And I love that. So a shout out to that. You try to help me get better at Third Strike.
Yeah, that's interesting because like Sejam, you've been playing Legends of Runeterra, right?
Yeah.
And like from what I've seen in that game, like once you get past like gold or something, like most of your matches just end in like forfeits because you can just basically see how the rest of the match will play out just based off of like the cards you have left, how many cards they have left, and the way that that game is structured. It's just kind of like the writing on the wall at some point. Have you experienced that, or do you think it's like a detriment to the game? Do you think it's just
no? It depends on the matchup. Some like if you're playing an aggro deck and you're playing against a control deck and you are at like turn 6, like, and you haven't killed them yet, it's like, well, it's probably over. But that's like every card game, right? There are matchups where like you have a clock, and if you don't win by a certain time, it'll end. But I mean, currently, even like the best aggro decks have good finishers that control decks are scared of, and like it just really depends on the level. I've not experienced that when I'm playing ladder, like especially because I never leave until I'm dead. Like when lethal is on the board, I'm like, all right, I'll surrender. But until then, I don't do that. And most streamers, I feel like, are the same way that I've watched. So in my experience, that's not been the case when I've been climbing ladder. But it kind of depends. Like, so one thing is you can't rank down in that game from divisions or like I guess ranks. So if you're gold, you can't go below gold 4. Once you hit platinum, you can't rank below platinum. You know what I mean? So you can go up and down division, but you don't go down from plat to gold, right? So at the bottom of ranks, like people will surrender quickly because there's no penalty, right? If you're platinum 4 0 LP, and you go into a match, you can surrender instantly. You lose nothing, right? Like there's no penalty for it. You're just like, all right, I'm out of here.
There's probably
in that case,
there's probably the most creative like decks and like experimentation at the bottom, right? Because I'm sure people probably pick a top tier deck, try to get to that level, and then once they're there, then they can experiment and stuff.
Yeah. So in both of the rank seasons so far, the wildest things I've seen ever are at the bottom of divisions. So like the bottom of Diamond and the bottom of Masters are like it's hard to even decks people try to play against you.
Your
just
face
like the most
looked so
easy,
fatigued.
Like, yeah, these people are not playing to like climb. They're playing to like ruin one day and be satisfied. You know what I mean? Like they just want their deck to do this thing one time, and then that's all it needs to do.
This absurd combo deck.
There's like a bottom you can hit. Like 0 is like the bottom. You can't go any lower than that.
No. So like when you hit master rank, for instance, the lowest you can go is master rank 0 LP, but you'll only play like other master ranked
Right.
players.
Huh. Okay. I've been playing a lot of Brawl Stars, just like, throughout the day I'll hop into a match or something. And it kind of works the same way where once you reach a certain level with a character, you stay that level. But you can go, like, if you keep losing, you can go like hundreds of levels, like, down, basically.
That's so
And
so demoralizing.
like, I have at least 2 characters that I'm like, oh, I would have to win like 20 games in a row just to see like the level progression, like get back to where it was. I'm like, man,
I honestly think that right now the game industry, I don't think we've quite figured out how to properly incentivize competitive play. Right now things are just so number based and so score based and so rank based. I honestly think that, like, there's some fatigue when it comes to climbing these ladders and then falling and then losing rank. And, like, we wonder why people are so toxic. And I don't know. I think it's because there's this added number to now whenever I play, competitively, whenever I lose, I physically lost some time that I've invested. It's like my rank goes down. I tried hard to get that. I guess I really yearn for the time when people can be just as competitive, but maybe, I don't know, the stakes aren't that high. Like, I don't know really what I'm trying to say, but there's a reason, I think, as to why there's this overarching tension and anxiety when it comes to, like, competitive play, And I just have the feeling it's these ranked modes.
For card games in particular, I mean, it's hard enough to, balance, a game around, like, all these different synergies, all these different strategies, all these different cards, updates that are adding new stuff, and just kind of on top of that to, like, worry about, how, what are we going to do about the players, how are we going to keep them engaged, like, on top of all this. Like, it just seems like a headache. I mean, I couldn't do it. Like, these game developers are crazy for getting into, like, competitive card games in the first place. So
for me, I kind of feel like if you want to play and have progression and don't care about a rank or don't want your rank to go down, that's just what unranked modes are for. Like, by their nature, like, a ranked or competitive mode has to have some kind of reward for winning and losing, right? There has to be consequence one way or another, or
there does.
What is the ranked reward? Like, if you win, your LP goes up, and if you lose, you get a participation LP. They're like, here you go, you get like an LP that's we'll pin it to you. You know what I mean? It's like, it's weird to think, like, if the ladder is only if you win, you go up, and if you lose, nothing happens.
Oh, well, yeah, like, that's horrible.
Yeah, then it's just like attrition, right? The more you play, the higher you grind. It's just about, like, playing, right?
That's World of Warcraft. That's every MMO. The moment you stop playing is when you lose. That's how these MMOs work.
Yeah, like, so you do have to be creative, not only about, like, how frequently ladders reset, but also the rewards for climbing to the top, and, like, the system and how you climb. You don't want it to be so, like, if you have an 85% win rate and you're not climbing, that's bad, right? Like, you don't want it to be like that either. You want it to be that, it needs to be thought about, but you gotta have something for climbing, I think.
This is completely random, but I really love to read about, like Magic the Gathering history and competitive gaming history, right? Because, like, a lot of these things that we talk about, we just, like, assume they've always been there. Like, we were talking about aggro decks, right? But I was actually reading this article. Have you guys heard about the Sly deck? SLIGH? No?
I don't think so.
Anyways, just some really... So there was this guy, and his last name was Sly, right? And it was like 1996. And he brought this red deck that everyone thought was just garbage. Like, no one was even playing the game in that aggro style. People were like, all of your creatures are so weak, or so-and-so. And he literally, based on this deck, people started to then, like, completely change the way that they played the game. And I just think that, like, I wonder somehow in card games whether or not these developers are also sometimes beholden to these archetypes that have existed for so long. It's like every single card game we play, it's the same type of archetypes. And it's like, when are we going to see a completely new style of way to win? Or, like, when are we going to see a card game that isn't just about, like, health points and, like, unit health and, like, cards that do direct, like, a direct damage. Like, when are we going to see a card game that is competitive but isn't essentially based off of like Magic the Gathering? And like, even though it's been since 1996, this guy created this deck, we're still creating variants of this low curve aggro, have some removal. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm really interested in seeing like a new type of game, and maybe I should check out A Legend of Runeterra. I've never actually played it, but I've heard good things.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen from like the developers that put like a completely new spin on like the entire formula, it's all going into like single player stuff. You know what we've seen with
there's this game,
what I've seen with like Riftlands and Slay the Spire and all this stuff.
There's this game called Faeria, Faer.
Yeah, I played that game.
Dude, that game was so criminally underrated. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I know why the game didn't get so popular, because it's like so hard. It's so complicated. But man, they were operating on a level of card game that I just haven't seen before ever. I wish games like that could get more popular, but oh well.
That was a cool game, but the developers kind of went down like a slippery slope with that one, because the whole pitch at the beginning was like put like 10 or 15 hours in this game and you can unlock all the cards.
Yeah.
And now it's like pay for these card packs. You know, they put out like 1,000 since it came out in like 2016 or something. It's been like years.
It's the double-edged sword of every card game.
Yeah, and all the Steam reviews now are like, oh, this game's so like toxic now, with like nobody's playing it because like the devs aren't like respecting it the way that they like initially pitched and stuff. And but I put like an hour into that game when it was
have you heard
free through, like,
of that game at all, Jim?
Yeah, I haven't played it, but I've seen other people play it, or it's been brought up to me before, especially because I like reading old Magic articles and stuff like that. And there's a lot of them that are really interesting in terms of player archetypes that apply to different games and things. But on the point about Magic, I think the thing is, like, although there's lots of archetypes that have existed since the dawn of time, I don't think it's not like they haven't changed. Especially Magic. Magic gets new keywords, or like it gets like new phrases and things, and like stuff about cards that change all the time. And even games like Runeterra or Hearthstone, or like how the game approaches attacking into units or defending or turns, like they're all different. Runeterra is very different in how it handles its turns. It's like, even if it's my attack turn, like I play something, you play something, I play something, you play. So it's very different in that regard. And then even in the way that, you know, it got brought up about packs, I think Hearthstone is always brought up as like a game you have to put a lot of money into. And even Magic MTG Arena, it's like, or online, if you want to play Magic or Hearthstone, you have to put a lot of money in. But Runeterra is like really easy to play, completely free to play. Like it's like a game where unlocking everything without putting in a lot of money is really easy. So like, you know, what card games do and how they change, I think is like, it's interesting, because on the topic of why haven't they changed, I was just thinking the other day about fighting games and other games in particular. One thing I'm always worried about is that idea, because I think a lot of times what developers want to do is change games and be genre defining and build something that's so different and unique in its own thing. But a lot of the times it's not what I and a lot of people desire. I think instead of designing something that's new for the sake of being new, if you just perfect the formula and really just do things smart, people will be happier with your game than if you try to be genre bending and then create something that's just weird for the sake of being weird.
It's so true. Some devs just get so caught up on like their gimmick, you know, the one that like sets them apart, the one that they like use to pitch the game in the first place. They get so like hell bent on like pushing that and shoving it down people's throats that they just kind of lose sight of, you know, what makes the game fun. And you know,
well, they gotta cut through the noise, right? They have to try to make their game in any way, shape, or form different. However, as I'm saying that, there was this thing in like the back of my mind that just screamed a Cuphead, because Cuphead I absolutely love, and I feel as if they were like the most standard, like predictable type of genre ever. It's just a platformer. It's a platform shooter, but instead of trying to do something,
there's literally nothing fancy about it. Like it's just you can shoot in directions and move left and right, and you jump and dash. Like it's
Contra, but they made it
really not redefine the genre. It's just visually, it's so striking, and it's very well put together. It feels good. The controls are snappy. It's not expensive,
and
right? Visually, it looks great. And that's the kind of thing that people struggle to understand, I think, is like, you know, battle royales is a genre. If you liked battle royales since H1Z1 and PUBG and like then all these other games, the reason people constantly switch is because all of them suck. Like fundamentally, as video games, they're all horrible. I love Battle Royale.
It's true.
The problem with them is that not a single one is a good video game developed by a company that like puts time and effort into making something good, right? Like, it's not like a gimmick will save them. It's not like there's something so unique and weird and genre bending about it. It's just they're all badly put together video games and how they handle playing the game, matchmaking, like, you know, these things are just like not there all the times. It runs awfully, like horribly optimized. Yeah. Like it's just if you just do it right, you create Call of Duty Warzone, which is the most. There's nothing fancy about Warzone as a BR really, right? You just exist. It's just a popular IP. It's well put together. The game runs well. Everybody's gonna play.
So I'm curious what you think of Overwatch League then, or just Overwatch in general. Because I think Overwatch is a very unique case because it is a very well-made game in terms of quality, in terms of it is the last sign of the Blizzard excellence that we all or most PC gamers fell in love with. And yet, it seems as if the people who play Overwatch don't like Overwatch. The Overwatch competitive players are always griping about Overwatch, and you can just see how many pro players switched over to Valorant like immediately. I'm talking like the MVP of the league, the most popular players. Like, there's got to be something to, like, why is it people still play Melee? Why is it people still play these old Street Fighter games? Why is it some games have such like stick-to-itiveness, and then you have a game like Overwatch that I feel like is just stuck in the middle? It's like, is it quality? Is it genre? It's just very interesting. What do you think about Overwatch?
I mean, is there like a better hero shooter that exists than Overwatch? Like, I feel like the game is still, even if people competitively or they're sick of the game, they've been playing it for a long time, right? Some people, it's not like there's not still competitors for it, and it's not like the game is still probably not doing very well. Like, although vocally competitive players or people who are in Overwatch League or all these people are leaving, is the game itself doing badly? Like, is it not shipping units? Or I guess it's not even shipping units. Are they not selling characters? Are they not selling things? People not playing the game? Is it not?
I think people like to kind of weave this narrative that like Blizzard is just kind of falling apart at the seams, you know.
I mean, is it a narrative? Right?
I think it's a little more
what is the most popular hero shooter than Overwatch?
I don't think there is one. You're right. But I think
Paladins.
They're falling apart. Overwatch is in shambles.
Well, you know what? Actually, Sajam, we finally did it. We finally segued to our first point. And our first point is actually about Heroes of the Storm. So, Heroes of the Storm, you know, back in 2018, unceremoniously killed their esports scene. I just think they did it on Christmas or something, right? You know, like, was it something?
It was like all the casters and people were ready for the event, and they're
like, insane. Yeah. But our first beat is about, it seems as if the game is actually still going strong. Like, Heroes of the Storm is still a very, very popular MOBA. There's more players playing it. They're creating more content. There's actually new tournament leagues coming up. It's now sort of like a third-party thing, which I absolutely love. I love the fact that I believe a Heroes Hearth, and I think someone else, they're putting on Heroes of the stuff. So that actually does kind of add to Sajam's point that, yes, like, sure, there's this greater esports kind of, you know, world of we all complain and we all critique, but like, these games are still going great. Heroes of the Storm being one of them. So, Eric, I know that you're a big Heroes fan still. Do you still play? Like, how do you think the scene's going?
Yeah, I mean, I just play unranked. I play quick matches. I jump in for like 3 or 4 games at a time on the weekends with a couple friends before hopping on to like another game. And we have fun with it. You know, we switch up our characters. It's nice just being in it. None of us are like League of Legends fans. We just kind of drift towards the more casual nature of Heroes of the Storm. I mean, we've all been playing since like college, since we were all like in the same dorm room and everything. But I like it.
I still play Overwatch with my sisters. I still say to this day, Overwatch is the most fun when you're not trying to win, you're just trying to have fun.
Yeah,
like,
Overwatch is easy to have
it's
fun
such
with.
a fun game.
It's
but Overwatch esports was a mistake. I'll say that into my dying breath. I just think Overwatch as a game is so fun when you're not salty, when you're not trying to, you know, to win. But I also play Heroes of the Storm. I was one of those that was super invested in the competitive scene. I actually wrote strategy for Blizzard on Heroes of the Storm. I know more about Heroes of the Storm than probably any other MOBA ever. So a lot of people think the game kind of didn't work because it was too casual, but I actually think there's a more nuanced point. In its most basic form, it's too casual, but when you try to play competitive, it's actually too complex. I actually think the game should have been more casual. I wish that it kind of followed up on that dream of being the casual MOBA, because when you're at like the highest ranks, oh my god, there's so much shit going on. There's so many objectives going on. There's all these things that if one person on your team makes a mistake, and I'm talking like the tiniest mistake, whole team wiped. There's nothing you can do. You can never win a 4v5. So that's a really interesting dynamic about Heroes, but it seems to still be going well. Sajam, have you ever played Heroes? Have you ever dived into that MOBA scene?
Yeah, so my cousins love Overwatch and Blizzard. Those are like or Overwatch and Blizzard games and Heroes. So they wanted me to play Heroes because I used to play a lot of League of Legends.
Yeah.
So I played Heroes with them for a bit, and it just wasn't for me. Like, it was one of those games where, like, when I play games, I tend to play them a bit more seriously, and I just, like, getting my hands on it, it just didn't feel fun to me. And I'm not as big of a fan as, like, Blizzard's IP as many other people probably. So just kind of naturally, I was like, man, these characters.
If you don't love the IP, that's a big reason to why you play Heroes of the Storm. You know, like the art and the characters.
I mean, that's when
they play, like, WoW, they play Overwatch, they play the only Blizzard game I liked a lot was Diablo. So like, you know, it was not like an IP slam dunk for me like it would be if you're a Blizzard fan.
Well, that's how I felt when I went to BlizzCon for the first time last year. You know, I had played like a ton of Overwatch, just like super casually. Heroes of the Storm. I played WoW for a second. I played Hearthstone for a second, but just kind of going in, and you know, there was really nothing for me after the initial like announcements. You know, it was all these panels that like were deep dives into these games that I'm like not super invested into. So I just felt like if you weren't drinking the Blizzard Kool-Aid and you were at that event, you know, it definitely wasn't for you.
Also too, but Eric, you picked the worst first BlizzCon in history. It was literally active a political protest. People were practically insulting the devs as they were asking questions. Man, that was a wild one. That was the whole "do you not have phones?" Which, by the way, Sajam, do you have phones?
That was the one before that with Diablo Immortal.
Yeah, Diablo.
That was 2018.
Oh my god, really? Oh my god, the past 2 years feel like one blur, one weird, constant downward spiral blur. Sajam, are you gonna play the Diablo Immortal phone game?
No.
No, no, not even any amount of Diablo fandom.
No, I mean even getting hands on with even getting hands on with the next Diablo game at BlizzCon, I was like, yeah, you know, it's more Diablo.
Diablo 4 looks good.
Nothing wrong with that.
Diablo 4, I'm interested. You got me interested, but
yeah, the cinematics is amazing.
I don't really play anything on the phone. The most you'll get me to play on my phone is like a card game.
Game. Okay. By the way, speaking of phone games, this is a Brawl Stars Illuminati podcast, because Eric first introduced me to it, right? But what I started to notice about Brawl Stars, bro, its esports scene is massive. Like sometimes it blows my mind when these mobile games I've never heard of, when you look on their like YouTube videos, their grand finals gets like 15 million views. It's like these absolute massive games, and it's like so much of like the Western working esports industry. We're so blind to them. We're so blind to these mobile games sometimes, you know.
So EVO Japan happened this year, right?
Yeah.
And it was in a very large hall. It was called Makuhari Messe, which is like, it's where Tokyo Game Show happened. It's like the big convention center in Japan, right, in Tokyo. We went there and we had one of the bigger halls for EVO, EVO Japan, which is like, you know, the largest fighting game event that happens in Japan each year. And right next to us in the big hall was Shadowverse with their world finals, and they had, it's like a mobile game, and they have 19 times the floor space with like a $25 million pop bonus. You know, there's like a humongous, incredible prize pool. And like, we're just like staring at them in our little hall with like our fighting game tournament, and we're like, oh shit.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I've actually, I went to, so I'm sure you're familiar with Teppen then, you know, like the mobile Capcom fighter. So I was actually very involved in Teppen. I was I was in Japan for the World Championships, had all sorts of news. I was interviewing all of the. I actually huge fan of Tekken. It's one of those games where, I mean, don't get me started on Capcom. I think they kind of pretty much bungled the marketing over in the West, the most that pretty much anyone can ever bungle it. Like, I don't understand how such a good card game with such iconic IP isn't popular, in the West. But man, I was astonished at the amount of hype, like in Japan. Like, man, these fans and these casters and these pro players, it was really something. And then you go over to the West, it's like crickets. No one knows about Tekken.
I mean, think about the games too, right? Like Capcom in the last year. Just think about 2019.
Yeah.
Devil May Cry, Resident Evil,
Yeah.
and Monster Hunter, right? Just like think about those IP. They're just dunking on everybody with those IPs, right? And they have the Street Fighter characters,
Yeah.
which even if you're not a fan of any of the Street Fighter modern games or whatever, the IP is like really strong. Like Chun-Li and Ryu are really cool characters. Mega Man's in it. Like, you know what I mean? They're strong IPs, right?
And it's
like,
an
it's hard enough.
amazing game. Like the gameplay. It's the first. So there's always this joke among card game streams. Like 8 p.m. Ha ha ha. But like, no, your 8 p.m. does matter. They've somehow managed to fuse. It sometimes feels like a fighting game. There are times where if your timing is wrong, you will lose. Like, because they managed to counter fast enough. So like, it's just really interesting. But I don't know. Maybe it's back to what I was talking about earlier, how it seems like the more casual a game is, the more auto it is, the more easier it is finding these massive audiences. Because I will say, the one thing that is not in Teppen's favor is it's intense. You can't casually play a game of Tekken. Even though there's a 5-minute time max, it's a very intense 5 minutes. You have to be staring at your phone constantly. It's like really
kind of what
crazy.
turned me off is, especially when you think about a card game, it's very like methodical. You're able to take a lot of like time to like plan out your steps and see what your options are. And I feel like Tekken is like, just go, and like you got to counter this card and like throw this out.
It is. It's like a boxing match.
You're so like you're swiping on your phone so fast to like get everything out in time. And,
Yeah.
like,
Mobile games are like that, right? Like, I mean, the market is so... Dude, you should see the emails that get sent to me about, like, play this mobile game on stream. Play it for 30 minutes. Here's $50 million. This doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm like, where is this money coming from for this company? How are they making this much money? Like,
Well, it's Brazil.
it's not that far of an exaggeration, by the way. Like, you read these emails and you're like, how? Where's this money coming from?
It's
right?
Brazil.
Are you
India.
taking their offers?
It's China.
Hell no.
No.
Okay, so for me, I can't lie. When it comes to these sponsorships, you see some of it. Like, I can't play anything I don't like, and most of the mobile games I look at, I can't do it. I'll be honest. I'm just handing away money, but like I just look at it and I'm like.
Well, also too, like that's like.
Integrity,
Well, yeah, but like, that's kind of like. This sounds okay. That's kind of like your brand. It's weird to say that authenticity is a brand, but like like you come from the fighting game community. You're like the voice of these fighting games. Like if people saw you playing Raid, a Shadow Legends mobile, it'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
They're the only ones that haven't messaged me. Raid
Really?
Shadow Legends.
Interesting.
Dude, by the way,
They're collecting the check.
okay, so
Right
Raid
down
Shadow
on the
Legends
zeros.
started as a meme, and I think it's the same thing that happened with 5 Hour Energy. I remember when 5 Hour Energy was just this crappy little thing you would see in gas stations, and it sucked, and there was no marketing, and it was horrible. But they were persistent. They kept marketing over and over and over again, and now 5 Hour Energy is like huge. Like, oh my god, so the same thing is happening with Raid Shadow Legends, man. The amount of people playing that game is astronomically high.
No, but I was gonna say, I feel like even when it was a joke, there was a lot of people playing it. Like, it
Yeah.
was a joke because there were so many ads for it, but it was earning an incredible amount of money. Like, it was like an absurd amount of money. Like,
So
I just
why do
remember
we
it being
think that
and,
is
like,
though? Like, why? Because
mobile
is it
games, man.
Yeah, you got a phone. Who doesn't have a
Mobile
phone?
games.
so? Is it actually a good game, or I mean, because like, I'll be honest, maybe I'm a gamer boy. I've never played Raid Shadow Legends. I've never played it. I just know I won't like it. Like, how is that? Like, I just see it. I see the mobile game. I see all of the stuff. I'm like, nope, not for me.
None of us have to ever play it because the mobile game market is that tremendous,
Yeah.
right? It's just like if you've ever been to like Japan or something, like any country with like public transportation in Asia, and you get in the car and just everybody's doing this. The entire like everybody's on their phone, like playing whatever mobile, like even if our Western market or like in the US market is not large for mobile games, like it is incredibly large everywhere else.
So I personally think that the Western mobile, expansion, as odd as that sounded, it's like inevitable. Just from my own personal seeing, like if back before COVID, I would go around like the colleges around like UCI and UCLA. They're known for their esports scenes, and they just really love gaming. But you would go to like their Starbucks or their coffee shops, and you would see teenage kids all playing mobile games. Like they're all playing a PUBG Mobile, or they're playing just like mobile versions of these games. And like we think that the mobile is the lesser version, but for these kids, they have their phone with them all the time. They don't have a console. Their parents are going to buy them a console because they already bought them a phone. So it's like they play all the games there. So you know what? I often joke that I'm going to be the first customer when I'm like some old fogey. I'm going to, be in this old folks home, and it's all of these retro games and console games, and it's all going to be this, like MMOs. But I honestly think that's true. I think that there is never going to be a generation of gamers like the console and PC of gamers again. And I think we're just going to grow and kind of die out, and they're going to maybe make games for us up to a certain point. But this a mobile generation, those are the new gamers. Those where the money is. Those where the dollars are. And it feels weird as a gamer to be regulated out of what's popular, but it's happening every day.
I think it'll be okay. I think the gaming market is big enough, and there's enough money being made in console and PC games that you'll be okay. Although the mobile market is incredible.
I don't know. Yeah, yes, I suppose. I do have the tendency to exaggerate on my industry predictions. For example,
now we'll be like, what's gonna kill Overwatch? Right? Like, they'll get Overwatch Mobile came out, and that's the beginning of the end.
Overwatch Mobile,
especially with like this giant like indie game boom that we've seen over the past like decade. Like, there's always going to be people out there just like making sure that their vision comes to fruition. There's always going to be a game out there.
Okay, speaking of games and visions coming to fruition, have you guys seen that streamer game where you play that trailer where you play as someone's mod? What on earth is that? Because
are those like the anime cutscene things?
Okay. No.
That game started as a card game, and they're like, we got to get rid of aggro. They're like, how do we turn this into a genre-defining game? And then you ended up as a moderator in a Twitch chat. I don't know how that game even happened, but I can only imagine the thought process was something absurd.
So
Eric, it just seemed so foreign to me.
So Eric doesn't live on Twitter, so he probably hasn't seen it. But I'm suggesting you check it out. I think it's called Gamer Girl. That's the name of it, right? So.
Have like a U in it?
Nope, just Gamer Girl. For those who don't know, think of this as like a more narrative driven game, as in there's actors, there's a main actress that plays the streamer, but it's kind of like a Life is Strange or a Detroit Become Human where your choices matter. But here's the catch. You're the mod in her stream. Like, you play a simp mod. And all you do is watch this girl stream, and you literally then you ban people, you block people, but she's always asking, hey, what should I do? So it's this weird fantasy in which you're watching this girl and she's doing things. Fine, whatever. I'm all for like new media. But here's where it gets really weird, though. There's this twist at the end where it becomes a horror game. And now you're like, there's this weird horror murder fantasy in which you watch someone like invade her home, and now he's like trying to kill her, but you're the mod, so you have to save her. So they literally set up a story where you're the White Knight and you save this, and it's called Gamer Girl. You're not
going deep enough.
Yeah, please say that.
No, it goes deeper because a girl will somebody is going to stream this on Twitch.
Yep.
And when they do, there will be a mod in her chat. And that moderator in her chat will be giving her advice on what to do in the game where she's playing as a moderator in another person's chat. That is the level that we're going to hit. That's going to happen.
it's just so like, okay, so for one, the like reaction was obviously horrible, but the most interesting thing is
Did
that
they like pull the trailer?
yeah, so Sony dropped the trailer, but then like immediately deleted it. But that just made things worse because now it's like, it's like the Barbara Streisand effect. You can't delete something on the internet. Now everyone wants to know about it. And I think, like partially why I think it's so creepy, because I would defend this game if it was a horror story and the whole story was like, okay, there are creeps out there and I'm trying to do this modern retelling. But I can't, because it seems so completely tone deaf. It seems so completely, first of all, horrible timing in the wake of these Me Too allegations rocking the gaming world, in the wake of people taking this more seriously than ever. Maybe you don't release a game that is essentially about like manipulating a streamer girl so she depends on you for all of her things. It's just it's such a bad taste.
I mean, the name of the game just gives it away how like disconnected this is.
It's
like,
disrespectful
it
too.
Sounds like a joke.
Yeah, and the thing is,
I thought it's one of those things that when you hear about, you do think it's not real. You know what I mean? It
sounds like a parody.
We could have just been making this up the whole time.
Exactly.
And if we told you that, you'd be like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah, really.
No, I just pulled up the trailer. It looks
it's remarkable. I think
creepy.
too, like it's just so disrespectful because it's like, the gamer girl. Okay, so you have the lead character is a gamer girl. So naturally, the most important thing that's happening to her is she's trying to get murdered by a streamer or some fan, right? Because that's what happens to gamer girls. Like, it's just so disrespectful because, like, she's being defined by the fact that she is being victimized by online trolls. And then it's like the worst version of, like, a damsel in distress, but made for eSimps. So, who knows? This game's going to just live in infamy. I doubt we're going to hear
you really
the last
should have
of
just
this.
called it Sim Simulator. I feel like that is like
Sim City.
Sim City.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
they should have not I don't know what they did with this game or what they're doing with this game, but
It should have.
I feel like it's one of those games that will probably do well just because of how absurd it is. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of people are going to be curious.
Yeah. Well, these are strange times. There are more and more dating-esque of these games that come out more and more. Like, we're seeing more games that not only take advantage of VR, but to take advantage of the fact that the concept of what a video game is changing like radically. But at the same time, what was that dragon game a Dragon Knight where it was like animated? You guys know what I'm talking about, right? That like old arcade game where it was like animated. It was just a bunch of cartoons.
Slayer? Like
yes, Dragon Slayer, right?
Yeah. Dragon Slayer, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. So it's like yes, we've always had these type of games, and I guess one could say that this is just the next step in like narrative game building. But like, I don't know. I think there's also a way in which you can kind of stress the worst stereotypes of gamers in the industry in one horrible sandwich. So I guess, yeah. Eric, will you be playing Sim Simulator? Will you be playing?
No, never. You remember like when Super Seducer came out, right?
Super Seducer. Oh yeah.
Super Seducer, yeah. It came out with like a sequel too. It was like this
sequel, yeah.
Have you heard of the game? Have you heard of the game Mr. Mosquito?
Yeah. I don't know how
I'm spending my time.
Sajib, you haven't heard of Mr. Mosquito? The PlayStation.
I'm doing wrong things apparently. I'm over here playing card games or something, missing all the good stuff.
So Mr. Mosquito is the PlayStation 2, right? It was the PlayStation 2. It's one of the oddest games ever. Absolutely. This game could never be like released today. You play as a mosquito, and all you do is try to bite a young Japanese girl who you fly around her room all day.
I feel like I've heard of this.
It's different levels.
It's the whole family gets the sting.
Really?
You know?
Oh, okay, fine. The whole family. It's not. It's the main point is to then the difficulty ramps as you then try to bite increasingly harder, scenarios. But listen, why am I bring this up is because the game industry has always been making creepy ass games like this. You know, like creepy ass games have always existed, and I think it's weird that now in like 2020, yes, I know, current year, we're still making creepy ass games. It's like, you know, maybe we should stop making creepy ass games. So there's my really poor soapbox rant.
They're gonna make a mobile version of Super Seducer 4.
Dude,
turn out millions.
If you go past like page 4 on the Steam's featured page, you like actually see like uncensored anime titties in like the preview window. It's crazy, like how unfiltered, uncensored, like how big of like a trash fire like.
Well, you know what
I'm sure that's in the top sell. It's in the top 100 selling probably on Steam.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's the same thing with the porn industry. I'm sure you guys are aware of the whole Blu-ray and DVD thing, right? Ultimately,
Not at all.
So there was a war between Blu-ray and DVD as formats, right? And ultimately, the actual economic factor that made Blu-ray kind of not go the way of the dinosaur, but like DVD won, is because the adult film industry stuck with DVD. And like the reason that's a thing is because the adult film industry is quietly and has always been one of the most powerful, one of the most high profiting. It's one of the things that moves tech. So we're going to see more adult VR games, and when we do, they're probably going to be the most advanced and the highest selling. I mean, this is just the reality.
It still exists though, like,
huh?
Aren't Blu-rays still around?
I mean,
though?
yes.
Like,
So like there is a fascinating reason why, and it's actually, some say, because of the game industry. So because there were so many of these consoles that also doubled as Blu-ray players, that actually kind of kept the format alive, larger than it normally would. But anyways, I'm going off in the weeds, and we're actually up to an hour. I am very proud that we have literally gotten to none of these show notes. Like
we talked about Heroes of the Storm for a second.
We did talk about Heroes of the Storm, but you know what, Eric, just because you went through so much work. No. This is a lightning round. Turns out, did you know that they're making a game show about Tetris? So this is an actual game show. This is actually happening. It's going to be a trivia show, you know, starring. It's going to be on TV.
It's like HQ Trivia. You watch it on your phone and you play Tetris against people, and they're giving away like $1 million over the next year in prizes. So
cool.
Crazy. And speaking of game shows, The Sims also has its own game show, and it's airing tonight. So as strange as that is, there you go, Eric. We got to your points. Weird news, but there's a lot of game shows being made.
Boot up your cable box and go watch on TBS.
All right. So
my Blu-ray recorder.
Yeah, your Blu-ray, your VR. By the way, what the hell ever happened to VR? I thought that was going to be the next big thing. Next podcast topic. I want to talk about VR because my God, I'm sometimes both obsessed and then disappointed. But with that said, we have reached an hour. I can't believe we've been talking for so long. What esports fun stuff do you guys have? Do you have anything coming up, SayJam? Do you have anything going on that you can plug? What's going on in the world of esports and SayJam?
I'm trying to think. I feel like there's not a whole lot for fighting games upcoming soon. Like there's some tournaments and stuff that are happening online. Nothing super fancy though. I stream Monday through Friday on my channel. That's fancy. If anything does come up, it'll get covered on my stream. So go to twitch.tv/SayJam and you'll find whatever's happening. And
you can also follow SayJam on Twitter. By the way, shout out to Twitch chat. I think you were right, Unbreakable Doof. I think I got it absolutely backward about the formats. I think it was HD DVD versus Blu-ray and then Blu-ray run, but whatever. Yeah. The same thing still applies. It just got it kind of mixed up. So anyways, you can follow me at NickDurazio3RD. I highly suggest you don't do it though. And you can also follow Winko Stainless, and that's who you should follow. Eric never does anything on Twitter, and I'm trying to get him to, so I want you to bully him. This is a cyberbully podcast. Tweet at Winko Stainless as much as you can.
I won't bother you with anything. I won't like be in your feed ever.
It's just a nice follow.
Just be
He's
a
nice guy.
Yeah.
He is the Simp City simulator.
I don't appreciate that at all.
I know. I'm sorry, Eric. It just sounded so right. Anyways, this has been episode 24? 24.
24, yeah.
Of the Invisible Podcast. We'll be back next week. SayJam, thank you so much for taking the time to join us, idiots. rant and talk about various game things. This was fun.
It was great. Yeah, it was easy peasy.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Stop making games that are very skeezy. That's how we end the podcast.
Nice. Okay, cool.
All right. Talk to you guys later. Signing out. Bye-bye.
Peace.